Story 1. A phone camera also has lens distortion, so the middle of your face is going to look bigger than normal, such as your mouth and nose. The trick is to not be too close to the camera. Story 2. The science behind the selfie: no, you don't really look like that. Story 3. It's the same when you work out. I look great in my favorite mirror with just the right amount of flattering lighting. In a photo, I'm somehow both too fat and too scrawny at the same time. Story 4. I know the feeling. Before I shave, I know I look unattractive. However, as I shave, I feel as though I'm peeling away the unattractiveness. When I see my face after rinsing off, I feel like I am now a man capable of impressing the most beautiful women. The reality couldn't be further from the truth. I see a photo of myself with a clean shave, and it's like putting rims on a shopping cart. Story 5. This is actually an interesting one with an actual explanation. You know how every face is a little asymmetric? Well, your face is too. You have seen yourself mostly in mirrors, hence the way you see yourself is mirrored. And the way you identify yourself is also mirrored. When you take a picture, it is not mirrored, and thus your face will look different to you but not to other people who got used to your face the normal way. Story 6. Also, prepare yourself, lads. Some people are more photogenic than others. Some people aren't necessarily amazing looking in real life but have a bone structure that the camera loves. I worked in the fashion business for years, and you would be amazed at how drab some models can look in real life, yet put them in front of a camera, and they can literally make money out of that talent. Modeling does involve a lot more than sitting there like a lump being photographed. It involves having a bit of acting talent to get into whatever the photographer is trying to evoke, but primarily one must be photogenic. Also, consider how many movie actors are much smaller and far more delicate looking than they appear on the screen. Thomas Cruise and Alfredo James Pacino are both 5 feet 7 inches. Junfan Bruce Lee was 5 feet 7.5 inches. Mark Robert Michael Wahlberg is 5 feet 8 inches. Christopher Catesby Harrington is 5 feet 8 inches. Humphrey DeForest Bogart was 5 feet 8 inches. Marlon Brando was 5 feet 9 inches. Being photogenic is a thing. If you want to look better in pictures, then take tons of photos of yourself, hundreds even, and study them and work out what you are doing in the ones where you look your best. If you look at celebrities on the red carpet, you will see that many of them have certain poses that they stick to because they are confident that if they are photographed in that position, the photo will come out okay. Story 7. Phones have different focal lengths, which means to get a proper photo, you need to keep the camera at a particular distance, which never happens in the case of a selfie. Whereas a mirror doesn't have a focal point per se, as it is a plane surface as opposed to a convex camera lens. Story 8. Try taking pictures with different focal lengths of the lens. You will see the difference. A typical human sees the output of a 35 to 55 millimeter focal length. Lens distortion has to be factored in. Most people will see you as you see yourself in the mirror. So cheer up. Story 9. Aside from the things other people are commenting, such as focal lengths, distance from the camera, and being used to your face being mirrored, lighting is a massive factor in whether a selfie looks good, often the single biggest one for me. Just rotating myself a bit so that the light hits my face at a different angle can make the difference between a great selfie and an absolutely dreadful one. Story 10. The mirror is a dynamic image. It is the living you. A picture is a snapshot in time, and its quality depends on your pose, facial expression, lighting, exposure, focus, and all sorts of wizardry that photographers conjure from the black arts. This is why professional photographers are worth their money. Story 11. Combine seeing yourself out of the symmetry you're used to. Different angles with focal lenses on cameras make it look somewhat different as well. I always look different in every photo I take. Story 12. You probably don't look that bad in your photos. You just look different than you expect to look. I feel the same way when I look at my pictures, but women always tell me I look good in them. The last woman who rated me told me I was an 8, but I felt ugly in the picture. Full disclosure. That woman also canceled the date at 2 a.m., 8 hours before it was supposed to happen. Not sure if she just didn't like me anymore or canceled because she stayed up too late. It sort of fizzled out. I wouldn't necessarily say we ghosted each other. Just sort of stopped talking. Story 13. Selfies are tricky, but regardless of who's holding the camera, Try raising it slightly above eye level when taking pictures, and you'll immediately see a difference. Selfie tendencies include holding the camera lower than you would normally, which can turn handsome men into big-nosed, big-chinned individuals. When you look at a photograph, it's because you're seeing it the way everyone else does, and it's needlessly worrying. You know, like when you listen to a recording of yourself and think, that doesn't sound like me? It does, and it's really okay. Story 14 has a lot to do with forced perspective. Most pictures you take of yourself are from way too close up, which makes your face look disproportionate. This happens because cameras are monocular, not binocular, and thus can't correct for distance the way your eyes and brain can. Story 15. Ever looked at the moon and thought, wow, that's pretty? Then tried to take a photo and got this stupid white blurry blob? Yeah, the same thing happens. The camera is not great. Story 16. No, seriously, the closeness of a smartphone stretches your face in a funny way. You don't actually look that bad. Try taking the photo using a mirror. Solved it? If not, then I'm sorry for your ugliness. Story 17. A mirror flips your image. Cameras often do not. You more frequently see yourself flipped in a mirror, so photos can look just a tiny bit off since they are not flipped, which can be off-putting for some. Story 18. Lighting and angle play a big role. You're probably comparing your selfie, which is already like a hyper-focused, zoomed-in image, versus everyone's near-professional photos. Location and background help, too. I don't take too many selfies myself, and not a lot of people take pictures of me, so I just don't have many of myself. Story 19. Not all people are photogenic. Case in point, I had a friend who was maybe a 7 on a good day. However, he looked like James Bond in every photo. The pangs of envy were real, man. Story 20. Angle, distance, lighting, pose, and many other conditional reasons. Just try to mimic what you saw in the mirror in the photo and you should do fine. And don't forget you're handsome, bro. Maybe you don't see it, but for sure you're handsome. Story 21. Would you rather look good in person or on a camera screen? I don't care how I look in pictures, but to help you out, try to level your head with the camera, and before you take the picture, press your tongue to the roof of your mouth. It gives you the effect of having a strong jawline. Story 22. This is due in part to the mirror exposure effect, when a person develops a preference for something or someone after repeated encounters with it or them. We have evolved to realize that if we see something many times, it must not be harmful, whereas a harmful thing is something you may only see once. This extends to our own reflections. We don't see ourselves often, and when we do, it's usually due to a reflection. We frequently see ourselves in a particular way, mirrored or straight on, and due to the mirror exposure effect, we prefer our mirror selves to our true selves since we see our mirror selves the most. So when you suddenly see yourself in a photo from a different perspective, it's not the version of you that you most prefer, so you naturally think it distasteful. But if you see a photo of yourself that is very similar to your mirror image, it will look much better. Source: Reversed Facial Images and the Mirror Exposure Hypothesis by psychologists Theodore H. Meda, Marshall Dermer, and Jeffrey Knight. Story 23. At least you're handsome. I'm ugly in the mirror and on camera. This is why I try my best not to look in the mirror or even see my reflection on anything. Definitely not even trying to take pictures of myself. I'm ugly and just hoping to die soon. I hate myself and my dumb life. Story 24. Your mind has become accustomed to seeing your face in the mirror, reversed. It immediately recognizes this image as you and attributes positive traits to it. Basically, your mind has learned it's not fun to think of yourself as unattractive every day of your life. When you look at a photo, you are seeing yourself regularly, not reversed, so your brain is having a more genuine experience of seeing someone for the first time. Seeing yourself in a photo versus in a mirror is like taking the filter off yourself and seeing who you really are. The good news is everyone who knows you is used to seeing you in real life, like in a photo not reversed in the mirror, so they don't look at a photo and think, wow, he's unattractive in this photo. That's just the same person they know and love. Story 25. You can only look at yourself in the mirror from straight on, but in photos, it's usually at different angles that you're not used to seeing yourself from. That's my theory anyways. Story 26. Because you just need the right person to understand lighting and posing. My daughter, a professional model, makes me look amazing. She just knows how to take a picture. When I try, I look terrible. Story 27. Faces aren't perfectly symmetrical, and you are used to your reflection because that's how you see yourself in the mirror most of the time. Photos show your face, except that it isn't flipped like you're used to, so it looks odd. Flipping the image should make you look better, at least in your eyes. That's how I understand it. Maybe it's something else. Story 28. Because you are used to your image in a mirror, which is actually a flipped image. In photos, you appear to be flipped from your perspective, so your brain does not like it. Story 29. I am not a photogenic person because I do not want to be. I dislike social media focused standards on what it means to be attractive on camera. A lot of it is fake, and I would rather be authentic. Story 30. Because you are unattractive. If that were not the case, you would have noticed an obvious difference in unattractiveness whenever you looked at photos of your friends and family. Your reflection is simply an unattractiveness that you have become accustomed to over years of looking at mirrors. Story 31. Your brain makes it seem you look better when you look at yourself in the mirror. Your reflection is not only what is in the mirror, but how we all see ourselves. The camera is an objective point of view. It shows things how they truly are. Story 32. Use an iPhone camera. The software is much better than any Android. Pixels don't matter here. We like to see in pictures how we see in the mirror. That's the iPhone's job. You can also try professional cameras with the right lens. Cameras change shapes, colors, and more. That's why we don't like to see ourselves in most pictures. Story 33. Because you are used to looking at your reflection in the mirror, you do not look at your face head-on like everyone else in the world does. Because your face is not completely symmetrical, you are essentially seeing a different version than everyone else. That is the version you are used to. When you take a photo, you are now looking at the version everyone else looks at, and it is jarring because you are not used to looking at yourself from that perspective. It is pretty normal. Relax, you are probably still a handsome person. Story 34. Lighting, camera position, and posing all affect how handsome you look. Adjust them and learn how to pose naturally, and you'll notice an increase in photogenic ability. Story 35. Same. I would say I am an attractive girl, but for me, photos have never done me justice. Another reason I got rid of all my social media. I was tired of people seeing my social media photos, then meeting me in real life and saying, "You look way better in reality." Thanks, I guess. Story 36. It's a perception thing, I believe. Your face is not symmetrical, and 99% of the time you see your own face is in a mirror. When you see yourself in a picture, it looks odd to you because you're seeing your face backward. Also, the camera plays a big role. Depth of field, lighting, angle, and other settings make a huge difference. Story 37. Combination of reasons. Whenever you look at yourself in the mirror, you always see an inverted image. You know that you look like that, but in reality, you look like the inverted image of what you have in mind. Phone cameras produce a lot of distortion, so whatever you see in your selfie will never match what you see in your mirror. A professional camera also produces distortions based on what lens you are using. Story 38. Taking a good selfie is hard, unless you want to look like a smooth-skinned alien with glitter popping out of your ears. Most selfie software, including what is built into your phone, is geared towards women and cute shots. Have someone else take the picture for you and see if that fixes the problem. If that is not an option, make sure you have good lighting. Stand next to a window when it's bright out if possible, or go outside, and make sure your camera is a good distance from your face and slightly above you. Most of what I see people do wrong is have the camera so close they start to get a distorted image, like a fisheye effect, which makes your face look wrong in different ways, or get the shot from below the chin, which is unflattering 90% of the time. Story 39. The simple explanation is that our faces aren't perfectly symmetrical. What we see in the mirror is our own face, but flipped. It's what we see every day, every time we look at ourselves, and we're used to our faces that way. A photograph takes an image of our face the way everyone else sees it, not flipped. So we look at our faces in photos, and it doesn't look like what we see in the mirror, but everyone says we look great. They're not just being polite. That is what we look like to other people. Story 40. On top of the other comments such as self-perception, mirrored images, and camera lens focal lengths, Another big factor is lighting. Good or bad lighting can accentuate angles and facial features. Story 41. The mirror exposure effect. A mirror is inverted, and you've grown accustomed to it. You see yourself less often in a photo than in a mirror, so your brain prefers the mirror. Your friends would prefer the photo. Story 42. Because when you look in the mirror, you only notice how handsome you look. But when you look at yourself from a selfie, you try to find your imperfections. Story 43. Assuming your face is not symmetrical like most faces, all your facial features are flipped. So you're used to seeing a reflection of your face, not your actual face. If you mirror selfies of other people, you see how they see themselves. It often looks very weird to you, but normal to them,